What is up, guys? My name is Nash and welcome to the channel. So what is a recession? According to Google, this is the basic definition of a recession. So it is basically a significant decline in general economic activity. And the question is, how do you avoid a recession? So it is very difficult for the government and the central bank to completely avoid a recession, but there are things that they can do to attempt to avoid it. So I'm going to be going over some of these things. And if you've been watching the news lately, you've probably heard about an inverted yield curve, and this is something that a lot of people don't know about, and it's really confusing. So basically what it is that it is a point on the graph where short-term investments pay more than long-term investments, so which is crazy because you should be getting paid more for long-term investments. So they call it an inverted yield curve because it's the opposite of what it should be. So one of the things that causes this inverted yield curve is when investors start selling their stocks and shifting their money to bonds. So this is because the stock market is volatile and they don't want to lose their money, so they start purchasing bonds which are safer. So this increases the demand of bonds, and according to supply and demand, when there's a higher demand for bonds, the yield that they pay is gonna go down, so it's gonna be lower than what it is. But one thing to note is that an inverted yield curve doesn't always lead to a recession, right? Based on history, it takes about an average of 22 months until there's an actual recession. So if the yield is there for 22 months straight, and that's just an average, it has a higher chance of turning into a recession. So we have a lot of time between today and an average of 22 months from now. So now I'm going to go into the things that the central bank and the government can do to avoid a recession, right? So the first thing is expansionary monetary policy. All right, so this is something that has already been done. So that's essentially when the central bank or the Federal Reserve or the Fed, when they cut interest rates. So when they cut these interest rates, the goal is to boost the aggregate demand. So the aggregate demand is the total demand on goods and services in an economy. So lower interest rates might mean that people pay lower mortgage interest payments, and this puts more money into their pocket, which is a disposable income. So when you have more disposable income, you're more likely to spend it to purchase goods and services. And this is in turn going to do good for the economy. So that's kind of like the idea behind cutting interest rates. Under this monetary policy, you also have quantitative easing. So this is something that's super complicated if you really want to get into it. But I'm just going to go over the kind of like the basics of what it is. So this is usually used as a last resort. So when the central bank tries to cut interest rates, right? Let's say they get to zero or to a number that's close to zero, so they can't cut interest rates anymore. The central bank can actually purchase government bonds and other securities from the market in order to increase the money supply. So at the same time, if you increase the money supply, this can lead to inflation. So this is kind of like, that's why it's used as a last resort, because if you do too little, you won't put enough money into the economy. But if you do too much, you're going to end up putting more money into the economy, which is going to lead to an inflation. And the next thing is going to be expansionary fiscal policy. So this is going to be on the government side. This is when the government increases spending and or cuts taxes. So basically by increasing spending, they can create welfare programs or hire more government workers. So welfare programs help people that need them, and also when they hire government workers, they lower the unemployment rate. So tax cuts can be income tax cuts, or they can be corporate tax cuts. And within this, you have something that's called helicopter money. So this is kind of similar to quantitative easing. So this involves printing large sums of money, and the money is in turn distributed to consumers so they can have more money to spend. All right, so if you look at all these things, you're going to see one thing in common, which is they have a goal to increase the money supply. So when you increase the money supply, people have more disposable income, and the more disposable income they have, the more they're going to spend it on goods and services, which is good for the economy. So that is pretty much it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions about anything, or if you want to add onto my list, let me know in the comment section below. And also make sure to go ahead and follow me on Instagram. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already. I'll see you on the next one.